How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Locker Talk Austin San Antonio. This is our Highs of the Week show. As always, I am Wac, joined alongside Thomas and Evan. Sadly, Evan for the last time. Evan, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing all right. You know, we're all getting through this quarantine stuff together, and I think I'm hanging in there, man. We're doing good.
Has it hit you yet that this is your last show?
You know, I was talking to my wife today, and I was like, it doesn't feel like it's my last one yet. Like it doesn't. I don't know if it's hit me yet, but I know it is, and I'm really excited about the upcoming things happening. But I'm also excited to see where the show goes and what you guys are going to do with it from here.
Thomas, how about your stuff? How you doing today?
Definitely doing well. Just, obviously punching through like Evan was referring to. We're still in the middle of this quarantine and, we're just doing what we can to just keep, living life. And obviously it is a special show with it being his last show. And I think we got a couple things in store that are going to make it a memorable last one.
All right, dude. I'm looking forward to it.
Speaking of living life, Thomas, what is your high of the week?
That's tough to say, but I'm going to say my high of the week is the fact that I've been rewatching a lot of classic sports games from when I was younger. I've seen old Astros games, Spurs games. People don't know this, but I have some family from the Midwest, so I got some Cubs blood in me, so I watched some old Cubs games.
All right, dude.
Definitely am excited for being able to kind of relive many great games for my childhood.
How about that 2016 World Series? You watch that?
Oh, yeah. I definitely rewatched Game 7. What a great game.
Yeah. Who was calling that game, by the way? Do you remember? Okay, so Joe Buck. No, okay. So as all the criticism that everybody gives Joe Buck on this, or on the way he announces games, what I really liked about what he did in that Game 7 is when the Cubs won, he dialed back. And a lot of times you see announcers, they talk over these really important moments. And here it is, an extremely important moment for the city of Chicago and for Cubs fans everywhere. And instead of trying to talk over that moment and make it something, he let the moment be. And I think there was like 16 to 20-something seconds of just the announcers were silent and just let the players and the emotion of the stadium just be captured. And I always thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely a great thing that he did. And I think, for someone like Buck, who's been around the broadcasting business for so long, that's the way to handle it. He knows when to talk. He also knows when not to talk and kind of, allow the listeners and the watchers just kind of, experience what he's experiencing there.
Yeah, I always thought that was good. It says, for all the criticism that he gets, I always appreciated that moment.
Evan, how about you? What was your high of the week?
My high of the week. So it's interesting. Thomas brings up, watching all these classics, because I went to YouTube, and Thomas, for your viewing interest, and Josh for yours as well. I found the 1999 NBA Finals on YouTube.
Nice.
And so I was watching that, and then I fast forwarded to the 2005 NBA Finals, and that's Ginobili's got his and for those who don't know, his rockstar hair. And so we're in Game 1 of that right now, and we've been just kind of cruising through those. And then what's it called? ESPN had the 2006 Rose Bowl on this past week, so that was a lot of fun.
That was awesome.
We all watched it.
Yeah, we all did. We were all three texting each other about it, and I remember when there was that collision when USC scored its last touchdown, and there was that collision between the two Texas defenders, and none of them got up. Neither of them got up, and it was just this slow. That was the moment that I think if anybody was like, "This isn't going to happen," that was the moment. But I'll tell you, I didn't really feel that. Now I was there. I was 13 years old and in the stadium, and I, as a 13-year-old kid, don't remember feeling that it was in doubt. I knew it was difficult, but for whatever reason, I'm like, nah, this is fine. It'll be fine. We're going to be fine. And six minutes on the clock, and people are, I'm sure, panicking, but for whatever reason, I wasn't. I feel like that's just the stadium in general wasn't. And it was cool I haven't watched that game in a long time. So it was cool to kind of relive some of that a little bit. But I'd say that was probably some of my highs, yeah.
It's interesting, Evan, that you brought up that you rewatched the 99 NBA Finals. And I know I've told you this, Evan. I don't think I've told Josh, but the age I was, you and I are about the same age, Evan, but I didn't really get into sports until a couple years later. And obviously my dad watched the finals. He's, decades long Spurs fan, back to when they were, the Dallas Chaparrals. But and I've talked to him about it, but I have not actually seen the 99 finals in full. And actually over the weekend was thinking about at some point, probably sometime this week or next week, I'm just going to find all 5 of those games, if they are all available on YouTube, and just watch them in full. Because like I said, I haven't ever watched that series in full. I've seen plenty of highlights, obviously, but that's a series I'd love to rewatch in full. Or I guess not rewatch in full, watch in full for the first time.
That's I want to say it still is, but I learned this watching it, is that it's the only, there's some sort of significant stat with it that it's the 2 teams did not break 100 for the entire series.
That's crazy.
And I want to say that's the only time maybe in NBA history that's happened.
Hey, it's fine by me because at the end of the day, Spurs won it all. So
yeah,
you can't really complain with that. So, my high of the week, I would have to say probably WrestleMania. In an empty stadium, not empty stadium, but in the performance center, it was unique. I definitely think it was unique for the fans to be able to get something still. I mean, yeah, they're still doing Raw and SmackDown every week, but to still have that kind of pay-per-view mentality. I mean, there was 2 matches: Undertaker versus AJ Styles, and what was a Boneyard match, and then John Cena versus Bray Wyatt or The Fiend in a Firefly Funhouse match, and both of those were very unique matches. They were pre-taped, they weren't in the arena, and if you get the chance to just go watch those matches, especially, like, I'm a big wrestling fan, I've mentioned on the show before, and so that John Cena versus Bray Wyatt one was very interesting. There was almost no wrestling whatsoever, and it was more of like a meta commentary on kind of John Cena and Bray Wyatt's careers up until that point, and it was and even just some meta commentary on just WWE in general. It was great stuff. Both matches were great, and so just seeing this time where they can't do these matches in arenas with live crowds has given them some kind of, I wouldn't say leeway, but some flexibility to just try some things out, and some of these things are working. I think you're going to see in the future, even when we go back to crowds, maybe a couple more of these matches happen this way. Maybe not as frequently, but it did work. So, definitely a high of the week, even though some of that luster or some of that kind of fanfare was lacking because of the lack of fans.
Yeah, we're on day, 20 or 21?
I don't even know at this point, man. That's how long it's been.
It feels like a year. This month has been a year. But it feels like so long. And I think what we're learning is that there's going to be some stuff that come out of this situation. When we talk about how bored we are, or the lack of sports that are happening, the lack of entertainment or what have you, and how we're hanging in there, and we really are. But from this challenge also breeds different opportunities. And so that, what the WWE did, that's an interesting, they pivoted and it worked out for them. And now that, like you said, you were very interested in it. The fans all around were very interested in it. So much so that this could be just another format that the WWE takes over. It's a different feel. They'll have the crowds, and then they can do something like this and make it just part of their set. So that's kind of cool how you're going to see. Well,
and it was their most. Now, granted, there's obviously stay at homes, and they're not people obviously watching it in the stadium, but it was the most social WrestleMania ever. So more people had talked about this WrestleMania on social media during when it was happening in the other WrestleMania. So there are some good things happening out there, but. With that being said, we move on from our own highs of the week, and we move on to kind of the highs of the week in the sports world. Not necessarily maybe great things necessarily, especially during this time, but some of the most newsworthy things. And so we'll start in the high school realm. Let's start, Thomas. I know you're probably the man with all the knowledge on this. So what kind of changes have been happening in the high school sports kind of world since the last time we've really talked about it?
Yeah, it's been a very headline-filled week, especially for Texas high school sports in Texas. I mean, you start with, the Texas High School Lacrosse League, and, this is an organization that, they're only, a lacrosse playing league, but they announced before any of the other major, high school sports leagues in Texas that they were canceling the rest of their spring 2020 season. And it says a lot, that, one of these major high school leagues decide to go to that particular conclusion. And, I think there's going to be a point where, you're going to start seeing more and more. And obviously, within a couple of days, by the end of last week, the SBC made the exact same conclusion for not just, their lacrosse season for 2020, but all their remaining spring sports. And, obviously, you got UIL and TAPPS that have not, wrapped up their seasons yet. And, from this point on, at least as of our recording, TAPPS has been pushed back to May. Originally they wanted to resume play in about a week from now. And, obviously I know Governor Abbott came out with a statement last week, an executive order, and, said that, schools couldn't return at the earliest or until early May. So it'll be really, really interesting to see, if TAPPS and UIL sooner than later decide to cancel the rest of their sports seasons, or, obviously the UIL has been, because they keep coming out with these different statements every couple of days, it seems like they are really, adamant about, finding a way to resume competition. I get it. There's a lot of seniors that don't want to have their season wrapped up just because of a virus. And, the UIL is doing whatever they can to keep that hope alive about having high school sports before the end of next school year begins. So it'll be really interesting to see, kind of what the timetable is in terms of what, the TAPPS and UIL do in the weeks to come in regards to just, continuing to either provide hope for high school sports fans in the state, obviously the athletes of many of these schools and teams in the state, but also if what the two leagues that I mentioned before, if that has any influence over their decision.
Evan, I was gonna say, what do you think the cutoff date is? Do you think it's like the first week of May? And just what do you think in general?
Well, it depends on the cutoff date. Depends on what sport we're looking at, and if we're planning on cutting every UIL sport, or what can we salvage. So if we're planning on cutting every UIL sport, and it's just a general cutoff, then I'd say probably around that May 4th timeline. I don't think we can go any further than that because, for instance, Lake Travis Independent School District, they're set to, they've extended their date to be back in school May 4th. So they've already extended past the month of April. So I think that would probably be a good starting point for a date, whether you're going to cut all sports. And the sports that I think you can salvage are basketball, because basketball, you have several teams who have already played in the state semifinal game. So you've already got a 1A and a 3A state matchup. And then you still have 16 teams in the state tournament that haven't played in the semifinal yet. But I think that because there's so little of the season left in basketball, that you can manage the logistics of what venue are we going to play at. Let's get them there and let's play. Maybe they're fanless and we just roll and we crown a champion. The difficult one that I think is probably just cut the slate and move forward is baseball. I know there's been talk of, if they can, playing baseball through summer until school starts again. And even a scenario where district will be a double elimination tournament, and it might take a week and a half long. Crown your two playoff contenders, and then play just a single elimination playoff matchup for state championship. I've heard that thrown around as a possibility, but at this point in time, seeing that we're already extending into May 4th, and who knows, the information is moving so quickly at this point that who knows when they're going to extend it again. So I think if you're going to cancel baseball, work on a timely salvageable arrangement for basketball if you're going to salvage anything. But other than that, I think you cancel it.
Now, before I move to Thomas, do you want to kind of bring up this scenario? Do you think there's going to be there's a possibility where some sports finish their season and some don't? Because, for instance, track, do you think it's going to be more harder to manage to get into a kind of state final than, say, a baseball?
I think so. Track, there's so many athletes participating and in so many different events that justifiably and responsibly figuring out logistics to make that happen, I don't think is possible. Baseball, while there's a lot of things that can happen, a lot of coordination that needs to go into place, you might call it, depending on the two scenarios that I laid out, you might call it more salvageable. But I think if they were going to finish any season, it would be basketball, because you can do that fanless, and if you take a little bit of responsibility on making sure that people are being safe, you'd obviously have to wait for some of these restrictions to go down. Right now, it's a recommendation from CDC that you have to wear a mask. So how do you, making sure that people are reasonably safe and responsibly safe during these scenarios, when should you even think about that? And I think if you were going to do something in basketball and finish that season, you're probably looking midsummer, like maybe July, so you can coordinate up to those games. But to reasonably get something like track and wrestling and baseball off the ground and finished, I just don't think it's possible.
Thomas, I do want to talk basketball specifically with you. So let's sideline basketball real quick. But what about you? Is there a specific cutoff for all sports, for particular sports? What do you think?
I mean, like Evan was saying, there are some opportunities that have, arisen in terms of just ideas, in terms of how they can finish out the 2019-2020 season if things continue to progress. And, obviously there's a way to, host these championships with or without fans. I mean, to me, I think the best option would probably be late May. I mean, I think if things have not, start to, resume. I know the NBA, there's been some talk in regards to, trying to get some games started in May. I mean, I think if you start seeing things without fans coming back, that might be when you would see, the UIL, host, like a basketball state Final Four in terms of wrapping that event up. The problem is, there's a lot of state championships, a lot of playoffs that have not even started yet. And there's a lot of regular seasons that haven't concluded. And it's going to be very hard to get everything in. And I agree with Evan on the whole track thing. There's probably hundreds of athletes that, qualify between the different, classifications. And then obviously, between boys and girls track that make it to the state Final Four. But that doesn't even include, or not the state Final Four, the state meet. That doesn't even include regionals. That doesn't include, area, district meets. There's a lot of, athletes that are, going to be affected regardless of whether the UIL can resume any of these athletics. But I would probably say, like Evan did, that track is probably going to be one of those harder sports to get everything done. Golf is probably, obviously there aren't as many golfers that, you're going to see compete, but there's still a good number in these individual sports that'll be hard to do those I think it'll be interesting to see if things wrap up, or not wrap up, but if, over the next month and a half, there's a vast improvement in terms of, not as many people, getting this virus, where you might be able to have over, a month, kind of like I was saying, if you can get stuff done by middle, or if you get that date in terms of resuming stuff in either mid to late May, you could really legitimately find a way to get everything done by the end of June. The difficulty is, and I don't know if it's been brought up on a previous episode or not of the show, but you're going to have the MLB draft coming up, you're going to have NFL draft coming up, and I know the NFL draft doesn't necessarily take high school kids right out of high school, but you're going to have some of these professional college athletic opportunities where these kids have to pursue those. And, if it's past graduation that some of these UIL events, are potentially planned to conclude, that's where it's going to be very difficult cramming everything in to get everything done.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things will be obviously the logistics of it all, and then the seniors that might have college scholarships. If things clear up and go back to normal, our coach is going to be like, hey, sorry, your graduation's already happened. You need to get to our university and start training. So there's a lot of logistics and kind of just things we've never had to deal with before. So it'll be interesting to see how UIL, TAPPS, and everyone else deals with that. Thomas, I said I wanted to put a pin in basketball, so we're going to come back to that now. UIL obviously does want to try and finish the season, especially for basketball, because there are so few games left. Now, if things don't work out, do we name co-champions? Mm-hmm. Or do we just say there's no champions? Do we what do we do? What do you think UIL should do? In kind of let's say that there's just no possible way to play out the games. What do you think UIL should do?
Great question.
If there is nothing in terms of being able to pull this event off in terms of wrapping it up, I would definitely say just give them all a state semifinal plaque. I mean, the difficulty is I don't want 24 state champions, and obviously that would look really odd. I mean, we got 6 classifications. If you give all 4 of the teams in every classification a state title, to me that just doesn't look great for the season, the league, because it just shows that you weren't able to complete it. But if you give everyone a state semifinal plaque, at least it shows, hey, these guys made it. A couple of these teams were able to get games in, whether they won or lost their semifinals. Obviously, the majority of teams that made it to the state final 4 did not even get a chance to hit the court at the Alamo Dome. To me, I would rather give them, a state semifinal plaque. I know a lot of times the losers of the state semifinal games, will get one of those to say, hey, you made it to this round, great season. In this case, at least it would recognize that they were a state final 4 participant, and you also would not have that odd situation years down the line where it's like, hey, why did you have so many co-champions? I know there have been times in the past where you've had different co-champions in UIL history for different sports, but it looked really weird to just say, hey, all 24 of them, or even, in those couple cases like 1A and 3A where those teams did make it to the state final 4, obviously didn't get to play their state title game. If you have those 2 state champs, co-state champion trophies, and then all the other teams that even hit the court, what do you do with them? I mean, so to me, it's just better to, give them all an even playing field. And, maybe for the teams that advance to state final, you get, hey, you're a state finalist. Maybe you do that. But I don't want to get.
You ready for this, Thomas?
No. Go for it, Evan.
You've seen Friday Night Lights, right? The movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Flip a coin. Flip a coin. There you go.
No. I'm not.
Hey, what are some creative ways, though? Imagine this. All right, so we're talking about being responsible and having reasonable expectations, right? So again, if we cancel every other sport and say we have 3 more games to play in basketball, instead of playing those 3 games, what if you maybe you have each team provide 2 of their best shooters and you play knockout.
Interesting way to solve it. I still don't think it's. I mean, it would just be a weird way to break a tiebreaker, especially for all the teams that make the state semifinals. It's like, why would you put in all this great performances and effort, and then obviously I know the coronavirus is a very rare thing. No one's seen something like this before, but I would hate to have teams destinies, I guess, decided by either a coin flip or something where it's an unusual way to determine.
It's an unusual time we live in, and we can corona a state champion if they play knockout.
So coming back to you, Thomas, because you just said something there. You said, these teams have worked hard to get to this point, and they don't want to. That's kind of a silly way to determine when they've worked so hard. So on the flip side, you said, hey, there shouldn't be 24 champions. As Evan pointed out, this is a unique time. Do you think coaches might kind of levy for 24 champions? Because, hey, who's to say these kids are, the school is ever going to make it back to a state final again? And Cole hadn't made it since, 89? What was the other one from Houston?
Oh, no, Cole played in state final, or not state final, but state semifinal.
I'm sorry, but they didn't win, right? They haven't won. But they haven't won. Yeah. So a lot of these schools, some of these schools haven't been here in however long. Will they get there again? And so I could see it. I don't know what I'm not ingrained in all the UIL rules, but could a coach say, hey, don't just say we're all state semifinals, finalists. Say we're all state champions. Because that's what if I was a coach and I don't know when my school is ever going to get there again, I would definitely push for that. What do you think on that, Thomas?
Like I said before, it would look really weird to have 24 state champions.
But it's easy to denote when you're looking at that, like, hey, this was because of the coronavirus pandemic of 2020.
No matter what we do,
I know, but there have been a lot of sporting events in the history of sports where like that were canceled by World War II or something like that, and they just have like a little note, hey, like this was not able to get completed because of the coronavirus. That's, to me, that's what you'd have to do if I was running the UIL in this particular.
Evan, what about you? 24 champions or no champions?
None. I'd go none. It'd be a year with an asterisk. Because no matter what you do, whether you put the 24 or you put the 0, the asterisk is going to be right next to it, and there's going to be a subnote, a footnote that says season cut short due to coronavirus. There's going to be an asterisk either way, so I would put none. Congratulations to these teams who made it to the semifinals. I do exactly what Thomas is saying: give out 24 plaques and move on. As unfortunate as that is, I just think I think that's the move. I think that's the move you make, and acknowledge how incredible all these kids, worked so hard to get here, and something as tragic as the times we're living in right now happened and took their seasons away. And it's a horrible thing, that they've done that. But when you're facing stuff that, when it comes to the safety of players and fans and just people in general, you do have to cut that season short, unfortunately. And if there's no way that they can salvage it, I'd just as soon go 0 as 24.
I loved your words, Evan. Season cut short by coronavirus. Just have that in there. Use that. You've had that with lockouts in the past with professional leagues. I think the wording you use there, that phrase you use there, would be a great way to, obviously explain why there wasn't a state champion for the 2019-2020 UIL basketball season.
Or you put the coaches and with an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4 and they play 2K in brackets, and your winner wins. Your winner's the champion. So there you go. You either do it by knockout, a coin flip, or NBA 2K. That's how it's done.
And they make custom teams with their school name on it, their logo on it.
Every player's at 99 ratings, so it's legit.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like a 5'5" guy dunking. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the UIL is putting out information on a week-to-week basis kind of now, so we will keep you updated as they update us. But moving on, to kind of close out our show, I guess you can call this the farewell Evan segment. So I know, Thomas, you had said last week you had some kind of thoughts on Evan, but you wanted to save him from this week. So I want to kind of give you the floor before we finally give Evan the floor to say goodbye, to kind of just give us some of your favorite moments, or before we do that, because I know you do have a special kind of message for Evan. I just want to once again say, hey, Evan, it was great to work with you these last 31 weeks. A little more than that, because there's some weeks we didn't have a show, but 31 weeks of shows that we filmed, and I'll forever be grateful for your banter with Thomas. We never got him to just shave the beard and have the mustache only. But I just loved y'all's banter back and forth. You could tell I'd kind of gelled over the last 2 years, and it was a pleasure. And like I said last week, anytime you want to come on the show, you let me and Thomas know, and we'll get you in.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's been a good time. We've had our fun.
Yes, and man, I'll never forget the one thing is when you had that clip from, I think it was Vandergrift, where you had gotten that great highlight of that great catch and everything worked perfectly, and then we just didn't produce the show that week. I remember putting it on, right. and you talked about it, and when you talked about it, it was perfect. It was perfect with the clip itself, and I was so excited. And then for whatever, I forget the reason, we just did not make the show go live that week, and I was so sad about that.
It's funny you say that, because on the notes, it was favorite VYPE moments, and I was thinking about them, and that was one of them. I just remember the highlight, and I was thinking about it in my head. I was like, well, this is what described how I saw it. And then you put that overlapping with the highlight on the screen, and it fit perfectly. I forgot we didn't air that show, though.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'll have to, next week or something, create that, because I have it on file. Maybe get that little segment of you just talking about it, because, man, maybe I'll put it on this show. Maybe I'll put it right here, right before we cut to Thomas, because, man, it was pretty great. And I was like, man, if we can get this on a show on a weekly basis when we talk about high school recap, that'd be great. Now, this hasn't panned out, obviously, because 3 guys trying to do all this stuff we talk about, it's a lot of work.
And but, whatever it is, the production needs to just at least make the air, right? That was we were so proud of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it here on this show. I'm gonna put it right here.
Mine is actually high school football related.
Nice.
Vandergrift played Vista Ridge this past week, and Trey Mongazi had probably the catch of the season so far. He's a senior for Vandergrift, and as he's running across the field, if we have video of this, it's probably playing right now, but he was running across the field, covered, leaps for a high-thrown ball, reaches as high as he can with one hand, and ends up coming down with the catch. It was pretty incredible. If the video's playing, it's awesome.
And then, and so now you probably just watched it, viewers, and so now you know what I'm talking about. But, man, again, just thanks for being here. And again, like I said, anytime you want to come back, come on, just let us know.
My pleasure.
Thomas, I'm gonna turn the floor to you right now.
Okay, so first I want to kick it off by saying, obviously, Evan, thanks for everything. You and I have been doing this for a number of years now. Obviously, the last 2 with VYPE. And what's interesting is, when I was trying to figure out how I wanted to kind of wrap up your tenure, at least not permanently, but full time, in terms of, being a part of this show, and not only this show, but last year's show as well. I was just kind of coming up with different ideas. And like Josh was saying, he had a moment that really wanted to highlight your time with VYPE, and I had a couple as well, and I have a little comment at the end. But my top 3 moments with Evan as a part of the VYPE team here in the Austin, San Antonio Hill Country area. My number 3 is you allowing VYPE to host its first ever VYPE basketball Austin shoot, almost 2 years ago now. And obviously, I've told you a million times, I've said on our shows, how much, I think highly of Hill Country Indoor, and, it's just, there's so much great things going on, and some of my favorite, photos from the Austin area that VYPE has taken have come from that shoot. And so, obviously, thanks again for having us there. And, it was a great shoot. We had some big time
did.
ballers, Greg Brown, and obviously Will Baker, who's now at Texas. He used to be at Westlake. But and then my number 2 was actually allowing you to be able to experience being a journalist, at least covered a game. You and I got to go see that Hayes Westlake game back in the fall, and got you
was hanging out in the
credential.
press box.
Got you in the press box and got you down the field after the game, and I'm glad you were able to experience that. And obviously, we got you a VYPE badge for other games that you went to, and that trip in particular obviously reminded me of all the times that we did Friday night road trips in college, and going to games all over Texas, and obviously the Austin and San Antonio areas, and so that was and it was a nice reminder of back in the day when we were doing that on a weekly basis. And then my top moment, and it was hard to choose, but I was very impressed with how you handled this. And obviously, you and I, we got great chemistry, and part of the reason why I brought you onto this show is you and I can talk for hours on end about sports, but the fact that you were able to handle that from the bench interview earlier this year so well, you were prepared for it. The discussion that you had was really, really enjoyable to be there live, but also, obviously to listen back, and not only from the bench, but obviously the rapid fire that went with it. To me, I was very impressed with the way you handled yourself in that particular situation, and it's been great to have you be a part of all our VYPE coverage over the last 2 years, and just the ability to kind of reunite with you, kind of going into my post favorite moments with you while you've been at VYPE, just being able to continue to have a show with you like we did in college, and just talk sports, and we came a long way. You mentioned last week the fact that we were talking out of our phones last year, and we were just finding places to record, and now obviously Josh really enhanced what we were doing, and allowed us to not only have a video show, but we got mics now. We're recording from 3 different towns right now, and it's been great to have you be a part of the VYPE Pilkington show last year, and obviously Log Talk ATX, SATX this year, and thank you again for everything. Thank you so much for always being ready, always being prepared, always coming in with all the research done, and obviously I'm going to miss all our great discussions, and definitely looking forward to next time we do something.
Yeah,
like
man.
this.
Hey, I appreciate the list and the time that took, the kind words, and obviously I just appreciate you guys having me on the show. I've learned a lot being a part of this. I've learned a lot more than I would have had I sat this out. Thomas, you and I did something like this in college. I know where I was I was a guest. I think it was Easter weekend, actually. It was right after the spring game. And that turned into a co-host's position there. And we just kind of took that show and grew it. And then I remember you called me up a couple of years ago. You were living in Houston. And you're like, hey, I'm coming back to Austin. What if we did this podcast again? I was like, how can we do this? Let's make it work. So we did. And like you said, we've mentioned a couple of times, we were just talking out of our phones, just recording on our phones and meshing the audio. No music, not a whole lot of production there. We were just meshing the audio, muting one person when the other one was talking. And I remember both of us having to do some production during that. And there was some raw moments, but here we are. The show has grown, which has always been the goal. Is and you and I our goal was always to grow the show. And at one point, you and I were talking about, all right, let's get guests on this show. How do we do that? Well, we probably need more than just you and I producing and putting this content together. And Josh, Thomas and I were actually recording a show in the house here. And he had mentioned that a new operations manager was a part of VYPE and had heard our show and wanted to see if we can make this into a video show, and we can kind of create something, put some guests on it, and really move forward with it. And I thought, well, this is what we've been looking for. Like, this is what we've been doing. The goal has always been, this is what we've been working towards. And so then, we met with you, and all of a sudden now we've got cameras and all the equipment and guests on the show, these from the bench interviews. I mean, it's just been a lot of fun. Like I said, I've learned a lot. That press box experience, that was something I wouldn't have ever experienced. So that was really cool. And just the weekly production of coming up with content and creating a quality show has always been just a lot of fun for me. And Thomas, I think you and I really do that well. I always loved the intro to Josh coming into the show and being a part of it. I was always hopeful that you would, because I know that you would watch, and there were times where Thomas and I were really giving each other a hard time or just kind of having fun with it. And I'm watching your face light up by the camera, and I'm like, this dude wishes he was I wish he was a part of it. Like, you need to figure this out and get in here. And so then I walk in one day and you guys are like, hey, Josh is going to be a part of the show. I was like, finally. like what took so long? I'm so like I said, it's been my pleasure to be a part of it and to watch this show grow from just two guys sitting in an office recording on phones to what it is now. We've got all the production that's a part of it. We've got guests and contacts, and I am excited to watch what you guys are going to do with the next steps of the show and just how it grows from here. And it's just been my pleasure to be a part of it.
I'm glad you obviously enjoyed the experience. And like I said, thanks again. Thanks again for all the late nights. I know you got home late a lot, and obviously big thanks to your wife, Courtney, for allowing you to do this. And obviously, just being able to team up and just have a good time with this. Yeah,
it's been fun. I actually, Courtney's like, wait, so I'm going to get you back on Mondays? Yeah, you might. You might. Yeah. So, like I said, it's just been fun. And to make a comment on that photo shoot. So when you had that photo shoot I was pretty shocked by just the quality of players that were walking through that building. So, Hill Country Indoor is where you had it, and all of the area's best players were in one spot. And I thought, how cool is this? And it was just cool to have them all there, and that we're getting these, professionally produced pictures. And then our basketball director, Blaine Bowman, tweeted something to me or texted me this tweet, and it was Will Baker on his decision day. He's got UCLA and UT logos in each corner. Like, who am I going to choose? And the basketball that he's holding has the Hill Country Indoor logo on it because it's from that photo shoot.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, how awesome. What great company. We've got Will Baker, and the three logos on the screen are UCLA, HCI, and the University of Texas. I was like, well, that's not bad company to be in. So I thought that was really, I was always just kind of a fun moment to see that happen.
Well, like I said, Evan, it was a joy to have you on the show. And like I said, welcome anytime. You're going to be missed. It's not going to be the same with, now it's just me and Thomas bannering and not us three anymore. So, I think we're going to miss your banner with Thomas, especially, for sure. But, we usually end with saying our social medias, but I think tonight, let's just end it here, with the celebration of Evan here. So, Evan, thank you again. Thomas, any last words for Evan here?
Obviously, thanks, Evan. But Evan didn't want to say his social media handles. This is going to be the last show, at least for a while.
Well, you know what?
Well, Evan, how about right now? How about you close us out? And if you want to say whatever you want to say, if you want to give us your social medias one last time, close us out.
Yeah,
Evan.
I can do that. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you so much for tuning in to Locker Talk, VYPE Locker Talk, Austin, San Antonio. For the final time, you can find me at Evan_Beyer UT. I got the handle right. And I'll be posting this show on my Twitter. It's a quick and easy way. Don't forget to follow VYPE and their website. Check out their website, VYPE, VYPE Campus, and check those things out. I know that you guys are really awesome at what y'all do, and it's worth your while to go check that out. And any content, if you enjoyed this show, go check out any content on the VYPE website. I know Thomas writes a lot of it, and it's all quality. So go check that out. For the final time, Evan Beyer, Thomas Bingham, and Josh Waslazik signing off.